Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I have yet another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a drama/thriller from France, French language English subs, released in the year 2006, directed by Denis Decour, and this film is called The Page Turner. So The Page Turner is about an incredibly gifted young pianist. She is facing a lot of pressure because she's up for a performance of a lifetime in front of some judges that include her lifelong idol. Now this idol, she is a world-renowned pianist and she holds a lot of respect, and no one respects her more than this young girl. So her parents are very pressuring. You're basically saying you can do it, but this girl feels the weight of the world on her shoulders, because if she doesn't impress during this performance, not only does she feel she's letting herself down, but she's also letting everyone who loves her down. So it's a very, very pressurizing situation, and when she gets there, she's just overawed by the situation, but she starts off pretty well. And this performance seems to be going nicely until something happens halfway through that completely destroys it. And afterwards, she's absolutely devastated, and she holds her idol as responsible for the complete mess that her performance had become. So she storms off, and basically everything that she strived for has been ruined. And we fast forward 10 years, and we realize that she had never taken up the piano since. But she still holds that anger she had for the person that she once called her idol, and she is desperate for revenge. So one day she gets a job as a temp at this firm, and she realizes that the boss happens to be the husband of the person she once called her idol, and this is her opportunity that she's been waiting for all this time. So when the boss says one day he needs someone to look after his young son, she volunteers to do this, and he believes that this girl is the perfect candidate. But little does he know, she is actually going to use this opportunity to interweave her way into the family and ruin it from within. So whether or not she achieves what she sets out to do is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Page Turner. I had high expectations for this film. You guys know that I love French cinema, and when you come across a French movie with a lot of accolades, that's even more reason to be excited. So The Page Turner was definitely a movie I'd heard about for a very long time, but I never really got the opportunity to watch it. As that, although it is a very well-respected French film, there are other French films out there that I wanted to see first, but I finally got the opportunity to purchase a copy of this movie on DVD, and so my expectation levels were very, very high, and I was expecting this movie to reach that pedestal that previous French movies have really set, and that is the reason why they are the world leader as far as cinema is concerned. So with all those expectations coming into the film, I will say that it is very well made. It does have some good moments, but ultimately I was very, very disappointed, because at the end of the day the movie's just not long enough, and that's something I'll go into a little bit later. But what I liked about this movie is the subtlety of European cinema. This is the subtlety of Michael Haneke. This is a thriller, this is a drama, this is a very dark film, but it doesn't have any violence, it doesn't have any swearing, but it just has that slow creeping intensity where you know something horrible is going to happen, and that the characters in this movie are oblivious to this main character's intentions. And this main character has a very angelic look, but on the inside you could feel her resentment through her very subtle body language, her subtle sort of reactions to certain events. And so this is a movie that you really have to pay attention to, and that's something that is trademark of French cinema and European cinema in general. So you've got a lot of shots where this movie is completely devoid of happiness, is completely devoid of colour, and so there's a strong level of cruelty seeping through the screen, and that cruelty is down to the bland sort of atmosphere that Denis Decour actually manages to create. And that bland atmosphere, combined in with the characters' motivations and the way that the characters interact with each other, there's no love in this film, and so the love is about cold-hearted revenge. And I always thought that the revenge could have happened at any minute, and so how was this woman going to go and execute her plan for revenge? You're never quite sure. And so is it going to be something that's going to be life-threatening, or is it something that's going to be just ruining a person's reputation? And basically this is what the movie's about, ruining reputations and the consequences of ruining someone's dreams. Is that because you're so famous, do you have a right to ruin someone who wants to be famous? And basically the person you look up to might not be the person you actually expect them to be. And so I thought, all right, well, even the judge in this film, or the thing that happened during this performance, I thought, all right, well, it was kind of pig-headed, but this is the life of someone who's made it and basically not really caring and considering about people who want to be the person that they are, and ultimately they were that person themselves, but because you're so famous you're not really thinking about that. And so I thought, all right, well, this woman is not necessarily the bad person straight out with a bad heart, but maybe the lack of consideration because of what fame can do to a person was relevant in this movie, and I thought that was an interesting sort of talking point. So cinematography, very interesting. It's not a colourful film, it's not a good looking film, but it's a very bland movie, but that blandness creates the cruelty and the darkness that the movie has seeping through the screen and slowly evolving in a snowball effect. The acting was very good. It required very downbeat performances. There's no real laughter in this movie. As I said, it's all very serious, but I thought the characters all do a very good job, and there's a very sinister undertone to this film. Without it being obvious, I always thought there was something sinister to each and every character, and so as I said, the happiness is not there, and I felt as though this main character was hell-bent on revenge, and that she had a lot of resentment, and that resentment is coming through the subtleties. And so if you like that kind of thing, I definitely think the page turner is going to be for you. I like the musical numbers. There's a lot of piano playing in this film, and I thought the piano soundtrack really contributed to the haunting sort of atmosphere that the movie was creating. And so the piano pieces, on one side you can admire the music, but on the other side I thought as though it played a character of its own in creating that sense of intensity through the subtleties that the movie possesses. But as I said, the reason why I thought this movie was greatly overrated is that it only goes for 85 minutes. So all the interesting aspects aren't developed well enough. Is that the characters, they're very interesting, but the whole film is based on the resentment and the revenge, not necessarily them as people. And so this is something that you could relate to as if you ever wanted revenge on someone, but I never felt as though I could relate to them as people. So I didn't like these people as much because I didn't really know too much about them, is because the movie doesn't allow itself to explain really anything. It doesn't really allow the movie to evolve to a point where I could connect to these people on a personal level. Therefore, I thought as though it was a very superficial experience. Is that, yes, it's an experience in vengeance, but ultimately, as far as a movie with this many accolades, I just think as though it was put forward as this vengeance sort of piece. There's a lot of piano music. There's a lot of really creative aspects as far as atmosphere is concerned, but ultimately I think a lot of people got distracted by that and not really considering the fact that there is no real character real character development. There's no real characterization to the story. Therefore, I felt as though I was a little bit empty, and I could admire the positives that the movie had, but unfortunately the negatives prevented me from calling this an absolute gem like a lot of other people did. I just think a lot of French movies out there might get the recognition because they're French, and the French have such a good reputation, is that some films really ride off that reputation, and I think that the page turner rides off that reputation to some degree. Although it's not a bad film by any means, it's a very, very interesting movie, but I just think as though if it just took its time a little bit more and it played it out to a more sort of evolved level, it would have been a much better experience. So it's definitely one where you actually feel the atmosphere, but as far as feeling the characters, I thought as though it was a little bit shortchanging. So overall, for the page turner, going to give this one 3 stars. It's no masterpiece, but it's certainly interesting enough to watch. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.